We will start with the plenary, the second plenary, and I want to introduce my friend Claudia Herrera. She's the Executive Secretary for the Disaster Risk Management Coordination Agency for Central America. Claudia, welcome.
Hello, hello. Thank you very much, Joaquin, and thank you for joining us in this important dialogue where we are going to talk about how the governments are taking measures and taking decisions with informed information about disaster. We have today a luxury panel composed by Ramon Soto, Ministry of Permanent Contingency, Commission of Honduras, COPECO. Please, Ministry Ramon Soto, join us in the panel. Also, we have the participation of Anil Pokhrel, Nepal Chief Executive, Disaster Risk Management. Welcome, Ms. Anil. And also Federico Rudolph, Civil Protection and Defense of Santa Catarina State. As I said before, it's a luxury plan. We are going to talk about how we are facing in our countries more risk, the increasing also, not just in tendency, or also the exponential disaster that we are facing in our territories. They are going to share the measures and the actions they are taking into the consideration about the increasing of vulnerability for climate change, and also what are the decisions they are taking at country level to avoid create a new scenarios of risk, and also to reduce the risk, existence risk, and also to respond more efficiently to disaster. As we know, these decisions are not always based on the best information available. Therefore, in this panel, we will explore the information decision makers are using versus the information they should be using, and the data, innovation, and technologies they would like to use to improve their decision-making process. Thank you again for joining us in this important dialogue. And to start this conversation, I will ask this question for all of you. Rapid response is crucial to reduce the damage and losses in a disaster context. Governments have to take rapid decisions to respond to disasters. What are the mechanisms in place to inform government decisions? I'm going to ask Federico from Santa Catarina to start this response. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and sharing a little bit about how Santa Catarina responds to disasters in the state level here in Brazil. Well, we were struck by a very major disaster in 2008 that showed us that we were not so well prepared to respond to major catastrophes. So after that, we implemented a series of measures that involved in disaster prevention and also a better coordinated response. In 2018, we inaugurated the Integrated Center for Disaster and Risk Management Center. The center is in the continental area of Florianopolis. All of you are welcome to visit the center if you have time, and you will be more than welcome to take a visit to get to know a little bit how we're structured to respond to disasters. And one main measure that we did is to establish integrated protocols between agencies, different agencies that respond to disasters in Santa Catarina. Some examples are the firefighters, the military and the voluntary firefighters, the police, military and civil police, the police for investigations, weather monitoring, water management and environmental management, infrastructure, education, health, agriculture. So every agency that in some area of expertise respond to disasters, we established integrated procedures. And also, we establish standard procedures for our activities and services that we provide to the public. Those services like issuing weather warnings, communications of weather warnings, communications of disasters, informations, how we activate the integrated center. So we have 4 levels of activations for the center, being green, the continuous monitoring and normality, yellow when we have local disasters that are being dealt locally by emergency responders. On the orange level, we have we require coordinated actions between agencies, but not full coordinations between agencies. And we have some more widespread impacts in the not only on one municipality but some regions, and these response requires some coordinated response. And on the red level is like major impact in the state infrastructure, in the essential services, and require not only full coordination between agencies, but also coordinations between the federal government. And in this case, the governor may assume the coordination of the response. And one thing that we also have on this integrated center is, despite being part of this integrated system for the civil defense and protection that is integrated between the federal, state, and local governments, the leading agencies are not the civil defense, essentially. So depending on the type of the disaster, if it's like, for instance, for social security, the police may assume the leading agency for the response. If it's search and rescue, the firefighters. If it's a health-related issue, like we have the epidemics, we will have the health agency leading. If it's like for animal or agriculture, we have the agriculture department. So each agency may lead the response, but the actions are, when the center is activated, it's because we need this coordinated response. So this is a very interesting approach that we are now able to respond much faster, and we have procedures to respond and to be more prepared for major catastrophes.
Thank you, Federico, for joining us and also to share the interinstitutional coordination efforts and the approach that you are developing in your country. Now, I'm going to ask Mr. Anil Pokrel to also share the same question.
Thank you, Claudia, and thank you for this amazing UR community. It's such a pleasure to be part of this and sharing our experience from Nepal. As you all know, back in 2015, we had a major earthquake that killed more than 8,000 people. The year 2015 is also a major milestone for us for 2 reasons. One, we really learned from what went through during the 2015 earthquake, how our investments on preparedness for response, our response, and also reconstruction work after that. But also the 2015 year also marks the year where we've devolved from a centralized country to a more of a federal country right now. And so we have the federal government, the provinces, the local governments. We also have 77 district administration offices. So there's very clear responsibilities between these 4 levels of governance. It's driven by the Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act that was promulgated back in 2017. So as Federico mentioned, we also have very clear roles, especially when it comes to response. It's the most priority area among all the 4 priority areas for risk reduction and management. There's huge level of attention given, especially in terms of saving lives. Over the last 6-8 years, what we've seen a major change is in 3 areas, particularly around the rules of the games, the policies and the regulations that has come out. Very clear-cut instructions in terms of through a guidance notes such as the National Disaster Response Framework that outlines the role of the military, the civil agencies, the NGOs and INGOs. So it's taken a whole of a society approach so that everyone comes collectively. There's clear roles and responsibilities. We don't even need to give orders for, say, for instance, the military, the army to even mobilize in times of a disaster. It's an autonomous thing. So there's also very clear rules for the non-state actors. The second thing is the financing. Very recently, the National Executive Committee endorsed the transfer of 1 billion Nepali rupees into the National Disaster Management Fund. So funding for response is not an issue. And so we have a mechanism whereby we're able to have 30% at least been set aside at the federal level, at the provincial, district, and the local levels for response. And then thirdly, an ecosystem of actors, particularly how the district administrative offices coordinates with municipal governments. The municipal governments works with local NGOs and INGOs in terms of preparing for disasters. What has really been of help is how do you work together? How do you define the rules of the games? So every year, say for instance, before monsoon, where we lose nearly like 100 to 200 people because of landslides, around 50 people because of floods. This is the time we come together in terms of preparing an action plan for the entire country. It's a joint work between the government, the NGOs and INGOs, and the local institutions. We all come together, reflect on previous year's experiences, and then learning from those experiences, we devise our action plan for the whole country. So this is how we reflect on past experiences, like the previous year's experiences, and then come up with plans for every sector. So every ministry has a role in terms of preparing for response. There's stockpiles, the volunteers, every institution, there's certain sectors that we've identified. That's how it's a collective decisions that takes place. Over the last few years, we've also heavily invested in terms of getting data down to a household level in select municipalities, using open source formats in some select mountains, hills, and Tarai districts. We've been in municipalities. We've trained armies of, again, volunteers would be working closely with the municipal governments to go and map each and every household, identify where the persons with disabilities are, whether there's elderly, whether there's children, there's pregnant women, so that they're able to better respond in times of a disaster. Technologies such as early warning systems, data-driven systems also do help in terms of, again, translating some of these early warnings into actions. So collectively, with a lot of support from various development partners, NGOs and INGOs, we've been able to really bring a lot of changes into how we do response over the period of time. What I'd also want to mention is with the support from major donors such as the UK government, the USAID, the Swiss and the Canadian governments, there's a multi-donor trust fund that's been administered by the World Bank, and it has helped us undertake something called Emergency Preparedness for Response Assessment for the entire country. It's been able to look at all these 5 dimensions, looking at issues, rules of the games, capacities around warehouses, equipments, trained human resources. We've been able to conduct this assessment for the whole country, and it has served as a baseline as what are the areas that we need to improve it over the next couple of years. So this is how we've been able to track our investments and our efforts around preparedness for response, and then gradually over time monitor this progress as how we've done after every monsoon, or perhaps after every major disasters. That's a very initial beginning that we've done, especially after 2015, but this learnings always continues, learnings from other countries from other experiences, so that we're able to better prepare for such events in future.
Thank you very much, Anil, for sharing this good opportunity to coordination efforts to strengthen it, and also how you can turn a disaster to opportunity to strengthen your capacities and also the early warning system. Congratulations, and thanks for sharing this information. Sorry. Now I'm going to ask Mr. Ramón Soto. I'm going to give you the information in Spanish. La respuesta rápida. He's going to answer in Spanish, so please be prepared to share. La respuesta rápida es crucial para reducir los daños y pérdidas en el contexto de desastres. Los gobiernos tienen que tomar decisiones rápidas para responder a los desastres. ¿Cuáles son los mecanismos que tienen en Honduras para tomar esas decisiones basadas en los gobiernos? Adelante, ministro.
Muchas gracias. Muy buenas tardes a todos los presentes. Básicamente, en Honduras tenemos un sistema Nacional de Gestión de Riesgos, por sus siglas en español, SINAGER. Aglutina diferentes entes gubernamentales, diferentes secretarías de Estado y algunas organizaciones de la sociedad civil como la Cruz Roja, los bomberos y parte de la red humanitaria. Este sistema se activa durante la temporada de inundaciones en Honduras y es quien coordina la atención a las emergencias, liderado por el ministerio que yo dirijo, la Comisión Permanente de Contingencias COPECO. Tenemos varios sistemas y herramientas científicas y técnicas para dar la respuesta. Uno de ellos es el Centro Nacional de Estudios Océanos Atmosféricos y Sísmicos, CENAOS, adscrito a nuestra Secretaría de Estado, que nos provee la información técnica y el análisis de diferentes modelos, tanto europeos, americanos, como nuestros propios modelos centroamericanos, al igual que la plataforma de CEPREDENAC. Y aquí públicamente quiero darle las gracias a su secretaria, a la licenciada Claudia Herrera. Todas estas herramientas y esta información es procesada por un comité de alertas, un comité técnico de alertas, quienes luego de hacer el análisis de la información científica que nos proveen estos entes, tomamos la decisión para decretar los diferentes niveles de alertas en nuestro país, que puede ser por regiones, generalmente por regiones. Las alertas que se utilizan en Honduras es la alerta verde, la alerta amarilla y la alerta roja, dependiendo de la perspectiva que tengamos sobre el fenómeno adverso de la naturaleza que en ese momento nos llegará al país. Esto nos da la posibilidad entonces de informar de manera temprana, de manera rápida y efectiva a nuestro sistema, a nuestra red de regiones, en donde tenemos 8 regiones de la Secretaría de Estado y 18 departamentos, oficinas departamentales que trabajan mancomunadamente con las alcaldías municipales. En Honduras tenemos una caracterización del territorio nacional, la venimos trabajando desde el año 2001 aproximadamente, tenemos una experiencia de más de 20 años en cuanto a la caracterización de la base que nos genera la información y con la cual trabajamos, que se llaman CODELES, Comités de Emergencia Local, adscritos a los CODEM, Comité de Emergencia Municipal. A través de ellos generamos toda la información y establecemos una comunicación de doble vía, tanto para la información durante previo el evento, como durante y post evento, para darle respuesta a las comunidades. Esto nos permite realizar las evacuaciones en tiempo y forma, tener preparados los albergues y las rutas de evacuación por donde saldrán las personas que posiblemente, según el análisis de la perspectiva climática, se verían afectados durante el paso de un fenómeno adverso de la naturaleza. Por supuesto, en Honduras, como en los demás países, el mecanismo es lanzar un decreto de emergencia, el cual puede hacerse en un consejo de ministros con la presidenta Xiomara Castro o puede llegar al Congreso Nacional de la República. Este decreto de emergencia nos permite tener acceso a fondos, a dinero, a plata durante la emergencia y nos permite coordinar y se activa un gabinete de emergencia y de infraestructura coordinado por la presidenta y delegado en mi persona, que se encarga de dar la respuesta inmediata. Se trabaja en 3 ejes muy sencillos. El primero es la búsqueda, la evacuación y el rescate luego de haber dado las alertas, obviamente. Evacuación y atención de las personas. Para eso tenemos que tener un preposicionamiento listo en nuestras bodegas. A la par de esto, mancomunadamente, entonces llevamos un segundo eje que es la rehabilitación, tanto de carreteras, de puentes, de caminos, y luego una tercera etapa que es más planificada, pero que se activa en el instante también que se activa el decreto de emergencia, que es la reconstrucción, que puede llevar mucho más tiempo. Básicamente, esta es la forma que actuamos en Honduras para dar una respuesta rápida, temprana, inmediata durante una emergencia. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Ministry, to share with us all these good efforts in coordination between the country level and also to take into the consideration the communities. Thank you very much. Now, we are going to ask the last question. I'm going to ask 3 minutes of each of you to respond. Rapid disaster response is crucial, but the reduction of existing risks is vital. What are the technical institutions you are working with, and what are the main challenges in terms of coordination, information, and technology? This question is to Anil Pakrel. Please, could you please answer this question?
Thank you. Thank you, Claudia. Again, if you look at the case of Nepal, after this Disaster Risk Reduction Management Act has been promulgated, it's made us much easy for us to coordinate among multiple ministries, non-state actors such as NGOs and INGOs, private sector as well. It's enshrined in the law itself. So what we have is a national council led by Right Honorable Prime Minister. All our honorable ministers are members of that national council. It also has our provincial chief ministers, members of this council. So it allows all the government agencies to come together, led by our Right Honorable Prime Minister, and to find out solutions for the problems that we face it. Just below that, what we have is the National Executive Committee that's headed by Honorable Minister of Home Affairs. There are 3 other ministers: Ministry of Urban, Ministry of Health, and Ministry of Federal Affairs and Local Governance. All secretaries of other respective ministries are members of it. So that's the major rules of the game, guidelines making body in our country. NGOs such as the Nepal Red Cross Society is also a member to it. Private sector is also a member to it. Similarly, at the provincial level, we also have a council led by the chief minister and an executive committee at the provincial level led by the internal affairs ministers. Similarly, we have similar systems at the district level, which is led by the district administrative office, and more importantly, at the local level, it's the municipal mayors under whose leadership there's a committee that takes charge of these decisions. So what it allows is, again, based on the principles of what we've been discussing since yesterday, the whole of society approach, it allows us to coordinate, interact, and come together for making specific decisions. Now, when it comes to, say, for instance, specific sectors, such as for early warning systems, these are technical institutions that we work with, particularly the Department of Hydrology and Meteorology. They are the only agencies that are mandated to do observations. But having said that, we also work with other regional technical institutions, such as RIMES, which is based out of Bangkok. There's ICIMO, then others that we work, that DHM and us as NDRMA works closely with these technical institutions. When it comes to landslides, it's the Department of Mines and Geology. It's Department of Irrigation. There's also research centers, the academic institutions, the NGOs that we work together with. So it depends very much upon what particular priority areas that we're working on. If it's for reconstruction, we work very closely with Ministry of Urban, Ministry of Physical Infrastructures, and also with local governments. So that's how it depends upon, again, which particular priority areas that we work with. For response, as we discussed earlier, it's mostly with the security agencies, the volunteer agencies, the Nepal Red Cross, and other set of NGOs. When it comes to risk reduction, that's the most challenging part of it. There's multiple ministries and roles of the private sector, the consulting firms also equally involved on it. We gradually, again, are making good progress, especially after the 2015 earthquake, after which we've been able to reconstruct more than 800,000 houses. They are resilient to future earthquake shocks. Schools that are much stronger to withstand future earthquakes, but also floods and landslides. Similarly, a lot of monuments, historical monuments, and These buildings have been reconstructed. What we need to do is now, building on the experience that we had for the last 6 years, reconstructing after the 2015 earthquake, is also to take a ex ante approach to look at reducing risk for other areas that were not hit hard by the 2015 earthquake. We just 3 weeks back, we had a very minor shaking of around 6.6 magnitude. It led to death of 6 people and a couple of thousand houses that's been damaged, few schools. What we've learned is, again, there's so much to do building on the 2015 earthquake, again, to reconstruct, rebuild, retrofit some of these houses, critical infrastructures in those areas. It requires a lot of interactions and coordination between all these 4 levels of governance, different ministries, departments, development partners, NGOs and INGOs. So that's the only way to go ahead for this. One of the challenges is around, again, to really work together. And so knowing what exactly roles that each of us would bring into the table. So this is where, again, the 2015 earthquake has been of tremendous help for us to understand as how we see our competitive advantages, but also look at, again, what we've learned from this earthquake. And if we not do risk reduction measures, we will be, again, losing hundreds and thousands of lives. So this is where the biggest set of challenges, again, learning how each of us could bring that value addition into the team. One other set of challenges includes financing. Again, most of our development needs are driven by, again, development sectors such as building roads, hydropower, or building new structures. Disasters as such doesn't become a sector in itself. So it's really difficult in terms of, again, making a case to allocate substantial budgetary allocation for disaster risk reduction and management. But if you look at what has evolved over the last few years, especially after the National Disaster Management Organization has been set up, we've been able to see a sudden rise in the budgetary allocations for response, but also for risk reduction. But this is where, again, it shouldn't stop. Financing and support from various ministries and departments, but also international donors has to be part of it. We also should be learning from other country experiences. So what works in Santa Catarina could be of great help to us. What helps perhaps in Honduras, because we feel the same kind of disasters, floods, landslides every year. This is where we could learn from such forums such as this Understanding Risk Forum in terms of how we coordinate, how we exchange learnings. One example that I want to share and to end is we've set up a platform called a National Platform for DRR, whereby we convene government, non-government, private sector, academicians, but also the media sector to all come together in 9 such areas, including the UN agencies and donors. So we do meet very often, and interact, share ideas and lessons. That has also been a very instrumental vehicle for us to coordinate and collaborate among multiple partners. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We know the risk is increasing exponentially. Disaster risk is being exacerbated by rapid urbanization, unplanned urbanization, and climate change. Unplanned urbanization has a huge cost for countries, a massive cost to respond to a disaster, and a huge cost to build resilience. Prospective measures such as urban planning can save much money while improving the citizens' quality of life. In this sense, what are the main challenges regarding institutional coordination which plan in institutions to ensure a resilient expansion of urban agglomerations? Could you please, Federico, respond to this question?
Okay, well, before answering this question, I do have to acknowledge that besides the state coordination, we also have the region coordination, and we have many regional coordinators here in the event. And this is, they provide the bridge between the state and the local governments, and they, not only for disaster response, but also preparedness and also disaster reduction. So it's very important to acknowledge that we have 20 regional centers coordinated between the state and the local governments here in Santa Catarina. And regarding to the urban planning, we did a big partnership with the Brazilian Geological Survey Institute. They we provided all the logistic for them, and they provide the human resources to do all the mapping for risk areas and also for susceptibility mapping. So we have for all 295 municipalities of Santa Catarina, we have the risk sectors, the highest risk sectors mapped, and also the susceptibility mapped for the municipality area. So this is a very important urban planning material that they have. We also have another instrument for planning, urban planning, which is the geotechnical mapping that it will the University of Santa Catarina is providing mapping for some of the highest risks municipalities of Santa Catarina. This is a very time-consuming mapping, so it's not we not being able to do this at scale the way that we did for the susceptibility mapping, but this is something that is a very important instrument as well for the municipalities to promote the urban planning and expansion planning. And the sector mapping is very important for them to provide the disaster reduction plans so that they can mitigate the disaster risks in these areas. Another thing that we are coordinating between agencies, state agencies, in 2011, we did aero mapping for Santa Catarina in 1 to 10,000 scale, and this included the digital elevation models for in 1 meter resolution. And now we are doing another mapping, which we're studying which technology we do, if it's going to be space or aerial transportation. But it's interesting because we're coordinating between many agencies, the agriculture, environment and water management, infrastructure. So each of them, the agencies and the civil defense, is providing the needs for special information, and we are doing all the specifications so that every agency can meet their necessity for spatial planning and spatial mapping, which will provide another instrument for the municipalities to promote the spatial expansion without going to risk areas. And in Santa Catarina, we also hired a company to provide the flood mapping for the 35 highest risk areas in Santa Catarina. So for these municipalities, we have high precision urban flood mapping for them. And with this new digital elevation model, we can do even better mappings for flood control. So this is some of the
Thank you very
initiatives.
much, Federico. And now the last question for Ministry Soto from COPECO. We have seen the importance of interinstitutional coordination and the value of data in making informed decisions. What will be an ideal scenario from the government's perspective to improve interinstitutional coordination on this regard?
Thank you. Por cuestiones de tiempo, ya estamos
have 4
en números
minutes.
rojos en cuanto al tiempo. Voy a ser bastante breve, porque la pregunta tiende a dar para eso. Bueno, la importancia es de todos conocidos, pero ¿qué es lo ideal? Lo ideal para nosotros en Honduras es que, por ejemplo, de los 298 municipios de que yo les hablaba, lo ideal es que los 298 municipios tengan sus planes de contingencia y sus planes de emergencia actualizados y puedan activarlos en el momento que se presenta la emergencia por el paso de un fenómeno adverso de la naturaleza. Lo ideal es que contemos con toda la tecnología de primer mundo para los sistemas de alerta temprano, que tengamos acceso a los radares, que tengamos una red de alerta temprana en todas las cuencas altas y en todas las cuencas de los ríos que cruzan nuestros valles y bajan de nuestras montañas. Lo ideal, y estamos trabajando en eso, en el gobierno de la primera mujer presidenta de la historia, en 200 años de historia institucional en Honduras, por primera vez una mujer es presidenta de la República, la presidenta Xiomara Castro de Zelaya. Pues lo ideal, y ya estamos trabajando en ello, es un sistema de mensajería SMS que ahora todo mundo anda un aparato celular que pueda alertar en forma inmediata y por regiones, diferenciando cada una de las regiones y que llegue a ella el mensaje con los diferentes niveles de alerta. Que este sistema esté automáticamente en diversos idiomas y que el mismo pueda ser transmitido también a las personas extranjeras que en ese momento se encuentran en nuestro país, que es un país bello, que los invito a que lo visiten, muy turístico, y por eso tenemos muchos visitantes extranjeros en nuestras playas, en nuestras montañas y en general en Honduras. Entonces, lo ideal sería eso, y que los niveles de coordinación en las diferentes instituciones que integramos en el Sistema Nacional de Gestión de Riesgo funcionen como hasta el momento lo venimos haciendo. Eso en un mundo ideal. Lo igual, tenemos que trabajar con lo que tenemos, porque, bueno, nuestra misión fundamental es salvar vidas y proteger los bienes de las personas que pudiesen verse afectadas por la presencia de un fenómeno natural o antrópico. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Minister. Now, for close this important panel, I will ask you to give a big applause to our panelists. That highlight the importance of coordination mechanism between the government, civil society, private sector, and also focus on the communities. That is a good importance actions that you are taking in each country. Thank you very much, panelists, and thank you for accompanying with us.
Thank you very much.